Hello, and welcome to Management and Leadership into e-tourism section for the Digital Tourism Business course. At this section, we will be discussing the various aspects of management and leadership in regarding to e-tourism development. So we will be looking into why is management and leadership so important in e-tourism that it is a section on its own in our course. We're going to examine setting up mission, vision, values, and strategy for a business owner or organization and how these affect the digital business side. We're going to also examine what is a positive and innovative company culture and how one is created, because that is one of the important aspects of being a efficient company in digital transformation. Then we're also going to look at knowledge and change management in tourism and in business in general, because these are important topics for digital transformation. And finally, we will be looking deeper into managing digital transformation and especially budgeting as a tool for businesses to manage that. So these are the topics that we will cover in this section of the course, and here is a short introduction to each one of those sections. Why is management and leadership so emphasized in this material? Well, first of all, for a business, there needs to be an end goal and a purpose that defines how and why business is successful. And this is especially true for tourism, because in the tourism field, many of the businesses are small or even micro-sized businesses. And the concept of entrepreneurship is important. Many businesses and entrepreneurs in tourism are actually lifestyle entrepreneurs, and they have different kind of values than just business growth. And that's perfectly fine. A business can have different goals, not just growing and making as much profits, but also, for example, providing a good lifestyle for business owners or entrepreneurs. Whatever the end goal is, there needs to be one, and it has to be clearly stated, meaning the business or the organization needs to have a clear purpose, why it exists. And the best thing would be if this purpose would be something that also the customers value. So the businesses don't exist just for their owners, but also for their customers. And it's up to the management and owners of the business to decide why the business exists and defining the direction where the business is going. The competitiveness of a business comes definitely from planning and strategizing. We use a lot of time and effort to optimize advertisements, think which one of these works the best, but really the big competitive edge comes from strategizing, choosing the right markets, choosing the right products, understanding the purpose and the brand of the business. These are all things that we have to reconsider when we are thinking about management and leadership in a business. Especially with technology, it is obvious that without a plan, we are lost and doing wrong things. There's so many different things that we can be doing in the digital space, for example, that without understanding what is the end goal and what is our plan to get there, it's really easy to make incorrect choices and divide resources in a way that it's not optimal. So we have to have a plan so that we understand where we have to be going. This strategy is a plan how we get from where we are now to where we want to be. And the strategy defines the role of technologies in business. If we look at the strategy and the path the company has to take, technologies can be huge assistance and help the company a lot to reaching that goal. But if we don't have the goal set, then it's very difficult for us to use technologies. And this is definitely one of the most difficult parts of doing any business, defining a workable, valid strategy for the business. It is not easy, but it is really rewarding. So when we lay out where we are good at, who are our target groups, what do we need to serve them, map out resources, networks, all of this strategy work, especially regarding business models, it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of effort. But after that, it helps a lot in adopting the right technologies, using the right social media channels, utilizing the right partnerships. So this is definitely one of the most important aspects of research for business development. I like to call this company compass, so that we know where we are going. And we are often talking about mission, vision, values, and strategy. Mission is a clear and simple definition of why the company exists. What are the reasons for it to be there? Then the vision explains what kind of world we want to build. So it's the perception of future. What kind of world the company or the organization wants to be there and help to build. And also defining what is the role of the organization in that future world that is envisioned. Then we also have values. What are the important things for us? What are the things that we take a stance? What are the things that we are ready to defend? And the final thing that we have to think about is the strategy. So we know basically where we are now, but we also have to define how we get where we want to be. And that is the strategy. So it is kind of like a battle plan, to stick with the military jargon, of taking us from where we are now to where we want to be. That is the strategy. And all of this planning work is especially important for branding. The work we put into defining these missions and visions and values and strategy define also the central brand elements. What kind of brand we are, what are the things that we are projecting as a brand. And again, technology can be seen as a tool that helps businesses to get where they want to be. So it's a tool that makes it possible for us to realize all these objectives we have in the company compass. Well, how to define a purpose for a tourism business? Many tourism businesses actually talk about experiences, how important experiences are, and how great the businesses are at making memorable experiences. But tourism has also a lot of other meanings. For example, this fantastic article that talks about meaning making in tourism has identified altogether 7 different things that create meaning for travelers. They help us to identify who we are. They help us to blossom in our creativity. We have it can develop social, spiritual, and cultural connectedness, help us to find harmony and balance in life, help us with stress coping, healing, well-being. Tourism, for example, in Finland belongs to this category. It's also about growth and transformation. If we think of backpacking, the Asia kind of trip, it's about finding out who you are, and also growing as a human being, get familiar with other cultures and so on. But also the experiential and existential aspects of leisure are included in this meaning. But all of these different aspects of meaning can be utilized to find out, why does the company exist? What kind of benefits the tourists and the travelers receive from using the company's services? And for example, finding out how to position in the marketplace. We can also think about what are the best things about the company. If we go to ask the employees, when do they feel most proud about the company? these kind of things help us to define what the company really is all about. It's about finding the strengths where we are really good at, what we do best in the country, best in the world, best in the destination, whatever the scale might be, identifying those strengths and building upon those. And this is a fantastic picture based on Joseph Pine and James Gilmore concepts of the experience economy, but presented by the prosumer index in figuring out where we want to position ourselves. If we look at, for example, the commodities market, where we are selling products like souvenirs or agricultural products, it's very undifferentiated market with market pricing. So there's not that much competition to be had. That is a really bad position for many businesses. We want to be able to deliver services. Many of the tourism businesses are in the service economy. But then we also have experiences and even transformation. And these are different strategies that we have that can be used to develop the strategy for a tourism business. So are we in the service economy? Are we in the experience economy? Or are we doing something staged and memorable? And each one of these positions the company differently in the marketplace. And it also enables them to create price premium because when there is nothing else similar to be found, then there's people who are ready to pay basically whatever you ask for the product. And that is where we should be aiming at. For example, Finland is such an expensive country that we cannot compete with price in the international markets. But what we can do is we can create experiences, and especially memorable experiences, that transform people and that people will be happy to pay a great price premium on. But of course, these also need investments. So they don't just happen by deciding that we are now in the experience economy, but it has to be visible. It has to be something that is materialized in the services that the tourism business is selling and offering its customers. Then, if we think about management and leadership and its role in enabling organizational innovations and utilization of technologies, company culture, and how the company treats its people becomes one of the central issues. People are always the ones who adopt and use technologies, and people typically resist changes. Changes take people to places that are not unknown, and there's a lot of people who don't like to have their future as something uncertain. So people tend to resist changes. Of course, there's innovators who jump into the latest technologies and devices and applications. But for most, we want to find out how things work and take a slow and careful approach to adopting and using technologies. And this has to be understood that it's a big complex phenomenon that encompasses all the stakeholders. So how we create culture and how we treat people, it's not just the people working for the company, but also it's stakeholders like other companies working with the company and the customers. All of these together create a culture in a company of how we treat people. And of course, the role of management and leadership in presenting an example of this is the company culture and this is how we treat people is very important. And company culture is often thought as one of the most crucial factors in digital transformation, in use of technologies. But it's not just about that. It's about how we create an organization that is able to innovate all the time, that is able to collaborate with various partners and stakeholders. And it's a company that has a purpose. And all of this good comes from a company culture that enables not just technology, but also innovation, and letting people to identify their own strengths, where they are good at, and building this team of people who are all striving towards a common goal and have a purpose that is shared by everybody. And it is indeed not just of course, all the employees are really important in creating the company culture, but it is first and foremost the management and the owners of the business that present an example of how we treat people. And that is how we establish a company culture. And that is how we enable innovations to thrive and happen in companies. That innovations come from people. There's no way around it, and we need people to work together in order to create these innovations, and we need to enable them within the company framework to present their ideas, test out different things, and figure out what works and also what doesn't work. This is also connected to knowledge and change management, because the most important resource a company can have nowadays are its people. That's where the competitive advantage comes from. Whoever decides the strategy, whoever decides mission, vision, values, and positions the brand in the marketplace, it's the people working for the company. If you have good people who are able to understand these things and work efficiently and in a productive way on these topics, then it's much more easier to find success in the marketplace. And change management is about how nothing is ever static. So when we set out our strategy, how we set out our mission, vision, and values, we have to keep an open mind that things might change. There's constantly coming up new things, and everything we do has to be revised all the time. We have to carefully and critically examine where the company is going, how it is structured, what are its core capabilities, and there's change happening in the marketplace, in external and in internal customers all the time, and it's about the business and how it can not just react to every change, but also drive those changes itself. All this change that is happening requires learning. So when we think of, for example, this COVID-19 crisis that has virtually stopped all tourism in the world, it is a huge change in the marketplace. And now the things that were working before don't necessarily work anymore. We have to come up with new things. And how do we come up with new things? Is through the process of learning. Businesses need people who can learn, who can adapt, and businesses also need that kind of company culture that encourages learning, adaptation, and bringing forth ideas that come from this learning process. As knowledge has become a key component in competitive advantage, it has to be also managed in a business. How do we identify all the knowledge that is in the organization? What is hidden? What is something that everybody knows? And how we can distribute and divide knowledge around the organization between different members is becoming more and more important. So it's very much the question of mapping out all the knowledge and learning capabilities that the people in the organization have. And I think this is an excellent example or a quote that the chief financial officer asks the chief executive officer, what happens if we invest in developing our people and then they leave us? And the CEO responds to, what happens if we don't and they stay? And this proverb is denoting this, that we need to focus on the people and we need to be able to enable them to learn. If the company doesn't have resources to do that, it is indeed in a very dire place. How do we ensure that the people indeed have time for training and learning? Is through budgeting. Budgeting is the most useful tool a company can have to make its strategy a reality. So whatever is stated in the strategy should also be visible in the budget. How are we positioned in the marketplace should be visible in the budget. Budgeting is one of the most important tools for a company for any purpose. If your goal is to have a digital transformation, for example, regarding social media, sales channels, or utilizing cloud computing, AI, all of these projects need to be visible in the budget. Digital transformation doesn't happen by itself, but it needs resources. It needs time and money, and all of this has to be visible in the budget. One of the main goals of marketing is to grow your business and gain market share. And it doesn't happen without a budget. It is very rare to grow a business in zero budget. Of course, there's growth hacking opportunities that businesses can utilize to grow the business to a certain level. But all of this typically also require quite a lot of investments. But on the other hand, those investments should have a positive return on investment. So all the investments you put into these growth projects, for example, digital transformation projects, you should be also able to understand how they affect the income side or how they affect the cost sides of the business in the budget in the future. And regarding digital transformation, this is an excellent quote stating that the biggest impediment to a company's future success is its past success. So the companies who are doing fine tend to stay put, that they stop innovating, they stop thinking about new things. And it's always a possibility for other businesses to create something new and find success in the marketplace. Everything we do is actually built on the past. It's very rare, it's very difficult to separate the future from the past. But still, the future should be approached open-minded and not being too stuck in the past and in the past success. And thank you for listening to this session.